Guys, so recently I got an email from a guy who said that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training has a higher dropout rate than BUDS, the first phase of Navy SEAL training. And he said that the reason for this is the poor coaching and technical training that a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms provide. And so he said that's what's going on. And I thought it was interesting, and I figured we'd chew on this because I've seen both of these subjects come up previously in different places numerous times. And so when I think about this idea, I think first back to when I started back in the early mid-2000s, right? Let's say pre-Ultimate Fighter days, because when the Ultimate Fighter happened, that's when like jiu-jitsu and combat sports really started to get more mainstream to where like everybody was just looking for it. But at the time, in the early to mid-2000s, we had a very small trickle of people coming into our gyms, okay? Also consider our gyms. We were training in like, everybody was doing this, at least in the Midwest. We were training in like racquetball rooms, or they would shove us into the back corner of a weightlifting gym. They weren't really gyms by the standards that many of you guys know today. And so when people would come into it, they'd have this abysmal training structure. We would just beat the crap out of each other. We're not even in a real gym. It was hard to find, but people stuck around back then. A lot of people. I know that when I think about the attrition rate, by the way, when we're talking about attrition, I'm talking about like training for like up to 1 year. After 1 year, you have a good, clear idea as to whether or not you want to continue to do this. You can take it or leave it. You know what you're into, right? I'm not one of these evangelical types that thinks jiu-jitsu is for everyone and you need to do it. I think that anybody can be good at jiu-jitsu, right? I think that. But not everybody's going to do it because it's not for them. And that's okay, because there's lots of things that I have in my life that like I know other people love, I don't love, and I don't want to do them. And that's okay. There's no judgment. So I'm talking about a year. So a lot of people that came back in the day, they all, pretty much everybody that came in stuck around for at least a year. And many of those people that started, they made it well into, they made it to become a black belt. Many of the guys that I started training with back in the day, they became black belts. And I think about like, why is that? Right? Why did all of us like start in this really bad training environment, but somehow we stuck around till the very end, right? Why is that? And I think that one of the things to consider is this barrier of entry. And this is one of the reasons why I don't think that the BUDS comparison with jiu-jitsu is a good one. Because, for instance, back in the day when we first started, the barrier of entry was sizable. The internet wasn't like it is now. It was very hard to find these places because nobody had marketing budgets. The internet wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. And so I remember the first time I found a jiu-jitsu gym, it took me months to find the damn thing. It wasn't even in the thing we don't use anymore, the phone book. It wasn't in the phone book. I found it on some back page on the internet in some jiu-jitsu website. And I found the guy's AOL Instant Messenger name and I sent him a message. But when I found that, I was like, it was a treasure. There it is. Finally found a jiu-jitsu gym. Months of searching and finally found it. And then it was the same for a lot of the other guys. When they found it, it was like you found this thing that you'd been looking for and you finally found it. You had a lot invested in it. There was a barrier of entry and it wasn't just some impulse decision. Think about BUDS for a second. With BUDS training, you don't get to go straight from the couch to BUDS training, right? You can't watch a movie about Navy SEALs and then say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a Navy SEAL today. And I'm going to go BUDS tomorrow. You can't do that. You have to go through their boot camp, their basic training in the Navy, right? And then afterwards, you have to have met certain physical prerequisites and requirements and age requirements before you're even eligible to do the damn thing, right? And at the end of it, you get this potentially lucrative and high status career. There's a lot of things going on there, right? And there's still a high dropout rate, which tells me that BUDS is much more difficult than jiu-jitsu, right? With jiu-jitsu, especially as it is today, there's no such barriers. You can go from for instance, we get this like little like large uptick if there is a jiu-jitsu based like win or something like that in a big UFC fight. All of a sudden, we'll see the number of calls and stuff coming in for the next like couple days go up because everybody's like, I want to do that, and they start calling their local jiu-jitsu gyms, right? And so again, they're going from impulse off the couch to I'm gonna go train jiu-jitsu. And they may not be in shape. They may not even really know what they're getting into. There's all these things going on. And then they come to us. Now, I'm okay with that because we'll take care of you and we'll get you up to speed. And we have, for that up to that year, we have a fairly low dropout rate, right? We get people up to where they need to be. But again, there's this barrier of entry. By the way, with jiu-jitsu, we don't have that lucrative high status career at the end, right? We have a hobby that you're probably going to do. And the benefit is that it's really fun for most of us and that you have varying levels of less suck as you get better, right? But I mean, for most of us, that's okay. But for some people, it's not, they don't dig it. But again, I don't like that comparison. Now, the idea of attrition, I think about this. And again, you have to be clear what you mean on attrition. For me, I don't think everybody's supposed to get to black belt. That's not the goal when I'm teaching. I'm not worried about whether or not they get black belt. Like as a coach, I have two things. And I think this is true for a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners who became coaches or people that run gyms. I want people to be able to fight because I want them to be able to defend themselves, should they have to. I would also like them to have the ability to compete, should they want to. Now, they may never want to do either one of those things, but I want them to have the ability to do them should they have to or need to or want to. And so with that said, those are going to be difficult. Both of those things are going to be difficult. It's not going to be an easy thing to transform you into someone who can fight another human being and do so very well and very adequately, right? Also, if you want to compete, competing is very difficult. And both of those things are difficult. And again, when it goes back to it, anything that's difficult, anything that's impressive, anything that's remarkable is going to be rare. And so again, if we're going to get you up to this impressive level of skill, impressive level of ability, it's going to be difficult. And no matter how we package that, no matter how scientifically backed our training systems are, it's going to be difficult for you. And not everybody's going to do it because, as we know, when things are difficult, not everybody does it. Because again, to me, there's a basic equation for anything you go chase after in life, right? There's desire and discomfort. If your desire is more than your level of discomfort, you'll do it no matter what. But again, a lot of people, they don't like the discomfort and they stop. And that's okay. I make no judgment. Again, it may not be your thing. For a lot of us in jiu-jitsu, we come to like the discomfort. It's almost like an acquired taste, right? Like the first time you have a glass of bourbon, it's like, oh God, this is disgusting. You know, for those of us that drink maybe coffee, right? First time you drink a black coffee, you're like, ugh, this is gross. Why do my parents drink this stuff? But then you come to acquire the taste. And with a lot of us that come into jiu-jitsu, we acquire the taste for that discomfort and we like it. Not everybody does though, and that's okay. Now, and so with that said, again, I don't think that our goal should be to get everybody to black belt because again, I think if we lessen the requirements, we lessen the standards, that's not going to be a good thing. You know, I think about like a lot of martial arts, for instance, as in a sort of a side tangent. This video is all side tangents, really. I've had numerous kids come into my gym to train. And many of them have come from Taekwondo gyms, karate gyms, and like the McDojo. And by the way, there are good Taekwondo and karate gyms out there, but some of the ones they were coming from were the McDojo kind, right? They were they were daycares, basically. And they're coming in here. The parents are like, my kid's getting his butt whooped at school. He's timid. It's a bad situation. And then they train with us for a few months, and all of a sudden they stand up to their bullies, and the kid's completely different, right? The kid's walking out with their chest up, they feel good about themselves, and they're much more confident about themselves. I'm not going to shortchange that for, hey, we got more people to the end of this rope here, or this end of this arbitrary line that I'm measuring attrition by. I want the people that come in, whether they're women, children, kids, doesn't matter. I want them to have those two abilities, and I want them to be adequately trained. And again, if that means that some people don't stick around, that's okay. Because I want to make sure that those that stick around, I'm going to give you the good stuff. You're going to be able to have something that is impressive, something that is remarkable, and that not everybody can do, and that's okay. And so again, I don't think this idea of attrition, it's not what we're trying to do. Now, the one last little thing I'm going to pluck in here is that another reason why I think that a lot of us stuck around back in the day, even like when I became a coach back in 2009, when I started coaching, and again, poor training structure, didn't really know what I was doing, but a lot of the guys that started training with me back then, they're black belts now, they're up on my wall. I think about the reason why that is. I think a big part of it is the community. A lot of people, we geek out about the techniques and stuff, right? Which is cool, right? Everybody wants good technical training. But one of the things that I think all of us will agree upon is that one of the things that really keeps us in gyms, that really connects us, one of the things that will make it very difficult for us to leave a gym if the technical training is very poor is the community of people that we're around. If we feel like we're glued in there, if we feel like we're somebody within that group, we'll stick around. And so I think that when I look back at it, one of the things that I think has helped my gym along the way is having a strong community. And that's something that should also be looked at when you're talking about attrition. You can have the best technical instruction, but if you have no community to bring people in, because people yearn for that stuff, to me, they're going to be less likely to stick. So just a few ideas to chew on. Let me know what you guys think about anything that I said in this video. Put it down in the comments below. I'll come through and check it out, and I'll talk to you guys next time.